Pete Hegseth, it was a tie, bipartisan opposition, smallest margin since the job was created. You had to break that tie. If the nominee can't unite your party, how's he going to lead 3 million people?
Well, look, I think Pete is a disruptor, and a lot of people don't like that disruption, but Margaret, that disruption is incredibly necessary. If you think about all of those bipartisan massive votes, we have to ask ourselves, what did they get us? They got us a country where we fought many wars over the last 40 years, but haven't won a war about as long as I've been alive. They've got us a military with a major recruitment crisis, a procurement price crisis that's totally dysfunctional, where we buy airplanes for billions and billions of dollars, terrible cost overruns, the delivery dates are always delayed. So we need a big change. Now, admittedly, there are people who don't like that big change, but it is necessary, and it's explicitly what Donald J. Trump ran on, and I think part of the reason why the American people elected him their 47th president.
So the main objective is changing all of that, that it's going to be Pete Hegseth alone?
I'd say the main problem the main thing that we want Pete Hegseth to do is to fix the problems at the Department of Defense. And unfortunately, there are many. We've gotten into way too many wars that we don't have a plan for winning. We've gotten into way too many misadventures that we shouldn't have got into in the very first place. And our procurement process, Margaret, is incredibly broken. We're in an era.
Decisions.
Well, of course, they're policy decisions, but they're also logistical and implementation decisions. If you look at where we are with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the rise of drone technology and drone warfare, we have to really, top to bottom, change the way that we fund the procurement of weapons, the way that we arm our troops. This is a major period of disruption, and we think Pete Hegseth is the guy to lead the job. Now, there's another element to this, Margaret, too, which is we believe that military morale, at least until the election of President Trump, was historically low. You had the Army missing recruitment goals by tens of thousands of soldiers, and already recruitment is starting to pick up because Pete Hegseth is fundamentally a warfighter's leader at the Department of Defense. He is a guy who sees not through the perspective of the generals or the bureaucrats. He looks at things through the perspective of the men and women that we send off to fight in our wars.
Both the Wall Street Journal and the National Review, conservative publications, as you know, have been critical of Tulsi Gabbard. The Review called her an atrocious nominee who deserves to be defeated. They compared her defense of Edward Snowden, the fugitive who stole U.S. secrets, to an attorney general who thinks the mob gets a bad rap. Her refusal to accept U.S. intelligence findings that Assad gassed his own people, they said, was like a nominee for OMB director not being able to count. Does any of this give you pause putting her in charge of the U.S. intelligence community? Yes or no?
No, Margaret, look, these are publications that attacked Donald J. Trump obsessively, but those publications don't determine who the president is, the American people do.
Him.
And Donald J. Trump is the person who determines who his cabinet is, not these publications that I think, frankly, have lost relevance.
The Senate will ultimately decide.
Well, the Senate will provide advice and consent, as is its constitutional obligation, but I feel confident that Tulsi Gabbard will ultimately get through. Two things that are important to know about Tulsi. First of all, she is a career military servant who's had a classification at the highest levels for nearly 2 decades. She has impeccable character, impeccable record of service, and she also is a person who I think is going to bring some trust back to the intelligence services. The bureaucrats at our intelligence services have gotten completely out of control. They've been part of the weaponization of our political system, the weaponization of our justice system. We need to have good intelligence services who keep us safe, but part of that is restoring trust in those services, and we think Tulsi is the right person to do it.
That's she doesn't trust those intelligence services.
She recognizes that the bureaucrats have gotten out of control, and we need somebody there who's going to rein them in and return those services to their core mission of identifying information that's going to keep us safe.
You campaigned on lowering prices for consumers. We've seen all of these executive orders. Which one lowers prices?
We have done a lot, and there have been a number of executive orders that have caused already jobs to start coming back into our country, which is a core part of lowering prices. More capital investment, more job creation in our economy is one of the things that's going to drive down prices for all consumers, but also raise wages so that people can afford to buy the things that they need. If you look at our slate of executive orders, no, Margaret, prices are going to come down, but it's going to take a little bit of time, right? The president has been president for all of 5 days. I think that in those 5 days, he's accomplished more than Joe Biden did in 4 years. It's been an incredible breakneck pace of activity. We're going to work with Congress. We're, of course, going to have more executive orders, and we're going to try the way that you lower prices is that you encourage more capital investment into our country. And you ask.
Here we go. This is very interesting when we are looking at JD Vance just owning Margaret here. Now, you can see multiple times she has a very smug look on her face when she's asking questions and she's smiling. So prices aren't going to come down. So you realize it's the Senate that does, speaking to a former senator since he just resigned in order to be the vice president. But the Senate does the advice and consent, don't you? Yes, he knows all of those things, Margaret. Now, let's talk about some of these things, in one for one. The confirmation of Pete Hegseth. The reason that we want Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense is because he is going to be a change maker. He is going to buck the status quo, and he is going to become lethal again, make the military just concentrate on lethality instead of DEI and wokeness. Now, here's typical way that a Secretary of Defense happens. Either they were in the military for a significant period of time, becoming a general officer, 4 stars more than likely, a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or something major, and they come out, and for the past 2 Secretary of Defenses that was initially done by Mattis and by Trump, you have to get a waiver. You have to be out of the military for a certain period of time before you can come and be the Secretary of Defense. And the waiver happened, and it was I believe it's 2 years, 2 to 7 years. I think you have to be out, and those waivers happened. But on the by and by, if you're not a career military, then you are either in the military or you've worked for the Department of Defense for a long period of time. You've gotten out. You've gone and served on a board for a defense contractor for a number of years, and then you come back, and then you get to be Secretary of Defense. And you're back in the same system. Where on that were you leading 3 million people? Nowhere were you doing that. You were sitting on a board with 20 other people, making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year, working 4 times a year, once a quarter. And so that's the standard that it seems that the Democrats and liberal media want to say that is why Pete Hegseth was not qualified, because he didn't go through that career path. Now, never mind the fact that he was a warfighter as an infantry officer and did multiple combat deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, and then also started 2 nonprofits, and then also, he became an reporter for Fox News and was a media personality. But that's no different than anybody that's in communications that goes and be the secretary, the press secretary, or things like that. So anyway, he knows how to shoot, move, and communicate. He's a war fighter. He knows how to shoot. He knows how to move. He's super in shape, doing push-ups. That was one of the questions that got asked him. How many push-ups did he do that morning? He said 3 sets of 47. And then he knows how to communicate. And that's exactly what in the Army we do. We shoot, move, and communicate. And that's what he's going to do. He's already has executive orders that are banning transgenderism in the military. Why? Because it doesn't increase lethality. Yes, it's a social experiment, but it doesn't increase lethality. And according to these executive orders, it takes upwards to 12 months if they actually go through their gender reassignment surgery of recovery. And they're on narcotics, which means they're not deployable. And let me tell you something. If you're in the military and you are not deployable, meaning you're ready to go fight, the military doesn't need you. If you're not deployable, the military doesn't need you. It's not a social welfare organization. It is designed to fight and win our nation's wars. And that's what we need to be concentrating on. And Margaret was just hounding on Pete Hegseth, and look, it's done. He is the SecDef. As of today, he had his first day on the job, and he's ready to get after it. Now, when we talk about inflation and where was the executive order that brought down prices and brought down inflation, and she's got this little smirk on her face, and I'll see if I can put it back up there so we can watch her smirking while she's asking these questions. Well, guess what? It took 4 years to get us into this position through horrible policies by the Biden-Harris administration, it's going to take more than 5 days to get us out of it. And that's how long, as of yesterday, that's how long Trump had been president. Today, is Monday. Tomorrow will be the 7 days that he's been in office. So, I mean, to say, well, you said that you were going to bring down prices. It's been 5 days. It's Sunday. It's the weekend. How come the prices haven't come down? Well, guess what? It's going to take a hot second to get us out of this mess. And luckily, we have a Republican president, a Republican-controlled majority in both the House and the Senate, and a conservative Supreme Court. Hopefully we can fix all of these things that got broken over the past 4 years. Now, one of the things that she was talking about is, Tulsi Gabbard, and she, is this supposed, double agent working for Russia. And that really got started by Hillary Clinton back in the 2016 Democrat primary, where Tulsi was running against Clinton. And Clinton was threatened that there was another woman that was starting to make headway. And so she's the one that initially passed down the rumor saying that she was a double agent for Russia. And that was immediately to discredit her. She was treated poorly. She was a Democrat congressperson from Hawaii. She immediately left the Democrat Party, and now she campaigns MAGA. Now, here's the thing. She is also a reservist and a lieutenant colonel in the Army National Guard, okay? So she is in a civil affairs unit, which is a special operations type unit. Now, she's not a Navy SEAL, she's not a Green Beret, right? But she still works in the special operations community. You have psychological warfare and civil affairs, and so she's in that. So she has a top secret with SCI level clearance, and she's probably had that for 20 years. So the top secret and special compartmentalized information. It's the highest security clearance you can possibly have, and she has that already. So she has already been deemed worthy of having such a high-level security clearance. And, I mean, give me a break. So she's got this super high-level security clearance. Can she be trusted with classified material? Give me a break. Yes, is the answer. The federal government has already determined that she can be trusted. Because if she couldn't, she would have lost that security clearance. So anyway, Margaret's questions are completely out of line. They're nonsensical. And, by going and talking to people, she was punished for talking to Assad. Why wouldn't you want to go talk to Assad? I mean, why wouldn't you want to have somebody that's going to handle this? I mean, we have people that are in the State Department all the time that talk to people all the time. The problem is when you stop talking to somebody, honestly, that you run into errors. That's why that there is a dedicated phone line in the White House that goes directly to President Putin in the Kremlin, and they have that line of communication open at all times. Now they test it every once in a while to make sure it works, but still, I mean, it is a direct line that if there is a period of time that there could be a miscommunication and we need to get somebody, an adult in the room to slow things down, it happens. And so that's why you want to have those lines of communication. So I don't fault her for that. No, I'm not excited about Snowden and her support for him. I think Snowden, is a traitor. He's still hiding out in Russia. I think he's even been extended Russian citizenship. Honestly, if you really didn't think he did anything wrong, come on back to the United States and plead your case, honestly. So I definitely don't think that I disagree with her on that. I don't think that makes her a Russian spy. It's a disagreement that I happen to have concerning Snowden. But still, I mean, when you have all of this going on, and I wanted to break some of this down, but we'll do another episode on the rest of this interview. But JD Vance did just an amazing job of really stuffing her, and you can see that she's so proud of herself, and she thought she was asking some gotcha questions, but she didn't. I mean, especially when it comes to immigration, it's what the reason that Donald Trump was elected was because of the economy, because of immigration, and to get rid of woke. To get rid of woke and to get rid of DEI and go back to merit-based and to go back to two genders, male and female. That's the reason why Donald Trump was elected and won and got all of the swing states, got the popular vote, and that's why he's the president of the United States of America. And this is why he picked JD Vance to be his vice president, because the man just knows what he's saying and is able to react in real time. So let me know how you think that portion of the interview went in the comments below. Thanks so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.